open with karakia, e te whānau o te konihira o te tai o Aorere, whaia te Maotaranga, kia marama, kia whai, taki kia whai, mahi katoa, tūmai tukaha, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou a tātou katoa, tihei, Māori ora. So we have one apology, Councillor Shellcrass for this afternoon, but he will be here tomorrow. Just noting that this meeting, while it convenes today, carries on through tomorrow. So it's not two meetings, it is one that will carry on through. Declarations of interest, a couple of people have noted just noting a declaration. Oh, sorry, moving and secondary for the apology. So is it for lateness or is it for?
I'll just put for Wednesday.
Okay, cool. Move Councillor McKenzie, second Councillor Hill. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Declarations of interest. Councillor Kinnaman. And the funding agreement in relation to the. Yep. And Councillor Walker.
Yeah, I'm the Deputy Chair for the Tasman Bay Promotional Trust, and they're coming up. There's some dialogue around their funding.
Oh, thank you. Noted. Minutes to be confirmed. So firstly, the Tasman District Council meeting of the 22nd of November. Move Councillor Dowler, the seconder. Councillor Dakey. All those in favour, please say aye. Tasman District Council Extraordinary, 7th of December. Move Councillor Dakey, seconded Councillor McKenzie. All those in favour, please say aye. And the confidential component of the 22nd of November meeting. Move Councillor McKenzie, seconded Councillor Dowler. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Right, that draws us to the first item on the agenda. So direction is to inform the long-term plan, consultation document and supporting information. Alan, this is in your name. Other people obviously supporting. So I will hand over to you, Alan. So lead us through this
Mr. Mayor. So just a few brief introductory remarks and then we can get into working through the report. So the long-term plan process has been underway for a little over a year. We've talked about multiple issues and aspects and parts of the long-term plan. It's a multifaceted, complex process and document. So I'd like to thank you for the engagement that you've provided so far. We've had some really good workshops and you all seem to be really engaged. So that's been really helpful from that point of view. This report's designed to move from the discussion that we've had to a series of decisions that will inform the LTP for consultation. And I guess that really important that it is for consultation. So getting us to that stage, making these decisions will enable staff to progress with drafting the consultation document, the supporting information with a level of confidence and enabling us to sort of get to the audit phase and then for you to adopt those for that consultation phase next year. The report doesn't set decisions on everything in the LTP. I think we'd have a very long report if we were trying to do that. So where we are focused really are decisions on issues that have received discussion at workshops and looking to confirm, I guess, the direction staff to perform those workshops. Certainly, if there was any doubt in staff's mind about where what the council's intent was, or there was a substantial debate, we've tried to include that in the report. And where the council is explicitly making a choice to include and continue with activities and services that kind of fell into that should do category through the risk and opportunity assessment process. So that's how we focus the things that are there for decision. I guess the development of, well, I guess these decisions and the development of the LTP is very much against the backdrop of the of how best to traverse the future arrangements for providing for water supplies, stormwater and wastewater in the LTP. I guess we're trying to thread the needle between the previous government's intent as currently enshrined in legislation and the new government's intent, which hasn't yet impacted that legislation. And I guess I think our approach is driven by what we consider to be the best information we've got available now and the right conversation we feel to have with our community. So that's the sort of drivers for that. The overall program and associated rates and debt levels for consultation are driven by multiple factors. So including in that is population growth, legislative requirements, a desire to continue to deliver important services to our community, and a desire to invest in the wellbeing of our communities through community facilities. All that sort of balanced against the impact on rates and debt. There are also in this report some fine-tuning of how certain activities might be funded, I guess trying to reflect the balance between where the benefits fall and who pays. With that, I'll take the report as read and happy with the assistance of multiple colleagues to take questions.
Right, thank you, Alan. So it's open for discussion, questions, obviously, comments, moving or seconding. Councillor Mackenzie.
Yeah, through the chair. Thank you very much. And Alan, you and your team, you know, a huge thanks for getting us to this point. It's kind of hard to envisage that all the hours, well, the days, probably weeks. That's almost a song. That we've spent sitting around this table, getting information, discussing, etc., actually brings us to this point. So it's a great achievement. Thank you very much. And just to kind of, I guess, make the point that for us as governors, this is one of the most important jobs that we've got actually. As a council sitting around this table, which is kind of setting that direction for the next 10 years. So what we need to do is we need to give that confirmation of the program of work to staff so that they can prepare the consultation document, and we can then get that feedback from the community, which we very much want. I'm not going to talk to every single point in here, but I would like to reserve the right to do that as we go through. But as a starter for 10, you know, I would like to actually move the resolution in total. And in doing that, I do just want to make one comment, and that is that it's absolutely music to my ears to see that as a council, we don't need to just be focused on pipes and roads, that we can actually recognise the importance of facilities in our communities to actually help the well-being of our communities. And it's so great to see that we've made provision for that. So, Mr. Mayor, I would like to move the resolution in total. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have one question. Item 47 agrees the key issues. So it was a conversation that we had earlier in relation to the various options. And I think from the indications received, Dwayne and Alan may have some suggestions. Indeed they are.
Yeah, through the chair. So we tried to distill that conversation into kind of 4 key issues. Provision of new community facilities, that was that aggregating up from a couple that you talked about. Transportation as a theme, and that includes increased investment in road maintenance, the extension of PT services weekend, and the reduction in walking and cycling investment. Climate change mitigation and adaptation, and kind of our overarching theme of financial sustainability. So that kind of balance between affordability, the long-term consequences of not looking after your assets, and rates and debts.
So as mover, are you happy, again, at the start of 10, in terms of the moving of the resolution, subject to amendment, should people wish to do that? But those 4 items are included in terms of the key issues. All right, thank you. Councillor Bryan, then Councillor Hill, then Councillor Mailing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this stage, I'm happy to second and reserve the right to speak to resolutions as we go along, if need be. Yeah, as Councillor Mackenzie said, I think it's a good outcome where we've got to taken. It's quite a while to get here, but going forward, it's all looking very positive, I think. Thank you for me.
Thank you, Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. I'm supportive of the resolution in its wholeness. And a lot of work, isn't it? And you've got to sort of hold the course, I think, you know, in terms of just keeping going and also work here among us. I appreciate the way that we as colleagues, we've been collegial with each other as we've, you know, horse traded and, you know, found a way to sort of get something into the document and to note that this is around, you know, saying here's our consultation documents, and there'll be plenty of other chat down the road as we sort of come to a landing on things when it comes to the decision-making part. And I really like it if our communities had confidence that we do really want to hear from them, and we will be affected by what they let us know. But in terms of going out with this, tremendous amount of work and still plenty to come, of course, but and you know, none of us will agree with everything that's in our documents or where we land in terms of the long-term plan. But I think that we are doing our best to strike a balance in really difficult times. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hill, Councillor Mailing, and Councillor Murray.
Yeah, I'm remiss. I should have declared an interest under section 42, which has the Nelson Tasman Business Trust on it, which I sit as a trustee in personal capacity and I represent the council. So that makes it difficult. I want to support the motion as a whole, but I can't be involved in that particular section.
So just in terms of their involvement or otherwise, advice-wise, given the nature of the decision and the declarations of interest, it isn't by definition that people cannot be involved in the decision making. They have declared the interest as apparent, given the nature of the consideration and the separation between any personal gain. I think noting, but for all three of the members concerned, noting that conflict in the start of the meeting doesn't preclude you from voting on the substantive resolutions.
Thanks for that.
If there was a specific debate about the particular funding component, I suspect that it might be advisable to just sit back from the conversation. All right, Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And firstly, I just want to also acknowledge the staff's work in terms of preparing this, and the fact that you had a must, shoulds and coulds approach when you came around this table, and the resulting rate increases that we see proposed are primarily because members, including myself around this table, have asked for things to go back in. So I just want to recognise that process, I guess, probably turned it on its head to where we were asking for things to be put back in rather than taken away. And absolutely get the intention around the table to retain the level of service that our community want and not to partially fund things and underfund things. I would be remiss after an email I sent earlier not to mention that I guess I've got some questions around some increases in the FTEs going forward. But again, this document is here for the community to have its say, and I'm happy to wait till that consultation and feedback comes back in terms of that. And I guess from a Motueka impact point of view, the harmonisation discussion of water is probably a key feature that will be picked up from what has been a closed club for now. But I also want to acknowledge that the approach and the thinking to the Motueka Pool project is also harmonising costs throughout the district. So as our different ratepayers read the different bits, I just think it's important that we recognise whilst our Motueka club might have been a tight club in the past and the discussion is going to be part of that, actually the thinking of using RFCs collectively across the region to support a project over there is good. And Councillor Ellis raised earlier today that, you know, whether we like it or not, we are subservient to the government. And I just feel for all the work and things that have been done up to this point that have now changed. And I guess we just need to stay fluid. So maybe we don't need to be fast and ahead of the pace for things anymore, that we just sort of wait and see, and maybe we can do that. But the nature of this now is for us to hear the community. And I'm comfortable with the documents going out that will create some conversation and some feedback. So happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Maru, Councillor Greening, and then Councillor Walker. Councillor,
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just having an issue with unlocking the video. It's interesting. The host has stopped it.
that's well, we can hear you.
Are you able to provide a video, or are you stopping that?
Are we able to provide a video? Can you not see us?
It says here on Zoom, unable to start video. You can't start the video because the host has stopped it.
Oh, right. Okay.
So technical glitch there. Fantastic. Thank you for
there we
switching
go.
it on.
Yes, the video is going. Good afternoon, Councillor Greening.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for staff for putting all the work in, and for probably bringing us back on track in terms of recognising there was probably a lack of strategy halfway through the workshop process. Unfortunately, I still feel that there is a lack of an overarching strategy across this. And fundamentally, I really can't agree with the overall trajectory of this long-term plan. So I'll be calling a division, which I've just done, on the voting of this. While I appreciate community facilities are always nice to have and do, I don't believe this council is in the financial position to embark on many of these, given the financial position we have found ourselves in and the financial position of the community. I think we should be putting our best foot forward and trying to focus on affordability. And that was a theme that came through in the last election. For many of us at those meetings advocated affordability. And it's disappointing not to see affordability actually as one of our key focuses. And I know some councillors don't agree with me. They don't think affordability should be used, but I think it should be. I think the key issues for me are affordability, debt, infrastructure, transport and stormwater, climate change. We've experienced a massive blowout in the dam, which again, I don't believe we've really responded to. $100 million blowout is massive for this community. We don't have a lot of rateable units in this community to draw upon. And each time we're digging deeper and deeper into people's pockets, we really can't afford it. This council is one of the most debt-burdened councils. I think we're in the group of 9. Ironically, I'm afraid Kit Manning will have a jibe at me over this, but given how much work I do in Wellington, but it's ironic to see that Wellington actually is below us in debt burden. And that's saying something about where we are. I don't believe that the dynamic rates cap is a cap at all. It's really just tracking spending. We need to be firmer with that. We need to have an aspiration, not just tracking up our rates cap as we want to spend more. Debt is a real concern for the community, and it's a concern because it's getting larger and larger, and at some point it has to be paid back. And effectively, it's just deferred rates increases. We were on a downward trajectory when I first came on council, but in the last 2 LTPs, we've lifted our debts cap and we've broken it. We keep on breaching it, and we keep on lifting it. And it's really a concern that we're projecting to get to $400 million in debt. It's also a concern for me that one of the biggest costs for this council has been quite a substantial increase in the cost of staff. The last LTP, which I again opposed because I didn't agree with the increasing in staff, was 100. And in this LTP, you're projecting to increase another 50 in the first 3 years, and then effectively 6 after that. So I think that's just unsustainable for this community. And I don't believe we've had necessarily the benefits that have tracked from that expenditure for this community. I mean, it's nearly $16 million increase in staff costs over the period we're talking about. And that's just unaffordable. And we should have pushed back. We should certainly be pushing back on the increase in FTEs that are currently occurring. Businesses have done this, they've tightened up, government departments are doing this. Even in New Zealand, when it was in financial strife, did this. It's really a no-brainer. And once we get through those financial difficulties, then we can start to reinvest in the organisation. But to continually just increase our revenue, which is basically just dipping deeper into the community's pockets, I don't think is fair on the community. And it's certainly not a response to what they were calling out for, which was affordability. With that in mind, I will be voting against the direction of this. I don't think we've put our best foot forward. I hope the community will have the opportunity to speak up, but unfortunately, it's going to come down to once this goes out to councillors listening. And to be really frank, having been through some of these LTPs before and with the Waimea Dam, it's very easy for council not to listen and just rubber stamp through what's in front of them and not change it. I hope that doesn't happen, but I'd hoped we hadn't got to this stage with some of these really fundamental issues that we really haven't addressed. So on that basis, I will be voting against this LTP, and I certainly welcome the feedback the community provide this council on it. And I hope we hear from our community, and I hope we listen to our community.
Thank you, Councillor Greening. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor. First of all, I want to acknowledge all the work that has gone in from many people on many levels and at many personal costs of your time. So thank you for that. Secondly, a highlight for me is that our social infrastructure has been included, and that is all about our community's wellbeing. So yeah, as much as I acknowledge that the pressures that some of these costs are going to put on, particularly our community who are on a fixed income, that some of it may not be as palatable for them as it is for others. But this is where we've got to. But the crucial part for me is that we now go out and we get the vital piece of information we require, and that's our community's voice. So I look forward to their submissions. I look forward to hearing, reading, and then processing where we go with that information going forward. So thank you, team.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to just echo what the other councillors have said and the appreciation of the work. And as I've already said, it's good to see that the climate change has actually percolated up to be quite an important and key issue, which I think needed to happen. I've just got one small point on number 25 about the food scrap curbside collection, and I'm just wondering if it is worth putting a qualification in there saying that, noting that the feasibility study is being funded, because I think that's an important factor in there. There's a lot of concern in the community, and you know, I appreciate that it may not be financially justifiable, but I think it would be worth just adding that in as noting that a feasibility study with Nelson City Council is underway.
So the question is, does it need to be noted in the resolution, or is it going to be picked up in the documentation, which will reflect both the current budgeted, because the feasibility study is currently budgeted and funded by?
Look, I believe it's part funded by the waste levy, and I think we might have third-party funding from the government as well.
Yeah.
Subject to it being confirmed.
So the question is, does it need to be included in the resolution, or will it be picked up in the commentary around?
Through the chair, I guess it forms part of the wider program that some of your early resolutions form, saying, you know, in terms of its financial impact, it's a small part of that. I guess it might be adequate to give you some assurance that it will be picked up in the supporting documentation. It may not necessarily be picked up in the consultation document, it'll be picked up in the supporting information. And probably if you wanted that recorded, it's simply recording it in the minutes might be an easier way than unwinding the resolutions at this point.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. I think as long as it's in the consultation document.
So the fact that it's not being funded might be in the consultation document, but in the supporting information, bearing in mind the consultation document is this, the long-term plan itself is this, and the supporting information is this. In there somewhere it will be covered. But I think noting it in the minutes in terms of the understanding that the feasibility study, and then should that come out with a recommendation or a rationale that supports it, either a future long-term plan or annual plan amendment would be the appropriate method for re-looking at it. It will also be impacted to some extent or another by what happens next door in terms of Nelson's decision around this as well. So, okay. Councillor Butler. Other comments? I think the key thing for me is I think, and the conversations reflected that obviously there's been a lot of process to go to get to this point. There are a huge number of suggested approaches to a whole range of different topics and subjects, and that is now going to be subject to the feedback from the community through the various methods that are available. But it's also important to recognise that within the document, and this is partly the question, there will be some reference to the things considered and not proceeded with, which will, I guess, encourage people to think about those. So, for example, asset sales has been brought up. It's not recommended as part of the resolution, but the fact that it's clearly, when you look at the financial sustainability key issue, one of the things that needs to be commented on is it is always an option that the council has open to it when it's considering the debt/rates relationship to consider the sale of assets. While not proposed as part of the draft plan, it remains something that the community can provide feedback on, and then the council can consider as part of that. And that applies equally to things like the three waters. So the legislation hasn't changed. There's a very clear direction of travel being indicated. We have prepared a long-term plan with three waters, and that drives a lot of the debt, particularly in the latter part of the 10 years. The figure that Councillor Greening referred to of $400 million, a lot of that is in that last few years and relates to Motueka wastewater treatment upgrade. Again, we're not really sure where that lands. Is there going to be future government funding through some form of mechanism to assist with that? We will know more possibly by the time we consider final submissions, and we'll certainly know more by the time council reviews along an annual plan and potentially the next long-term plan. Similarly, RMA reform. So direction of travel, a whole lot of assumptions that have been made on the legislative environment that we currently work with. Very clear direction that that's going to change significantly, and we are going back to a version of the RMA and then further amendments in the future. That also has financial implications, which we can't be sure about at this point in time. I think the other thing is, again, the way that I think the processes work, there are a number of levers that we have chosen to fully exercise in terms of the proposed draft that do provide options. There's also moving targets around, for example, speed management bylaws, which, while on one level are about speed management, there is a financial implication in terms of the implementation of that. Now, if that tracks according to the latest government direction, some of that may be available to provide either reduced rates or other spending. So there is a lot that is potentially going to change between now and the final decisions. And I am confident that there is room. Clearly, there's always room to go up should the community feedback be they want to see more done. I mean, that's a choice. But I think there is also room to pull back to some degree around some of those choices and options that we haven't fully exercised. And I think that's a prudent way to go into a consultation process, is to have room to move in both directions, which I'm pretty confident from the work that's been done to date, notwithstanding things that might happen that we don't know about. I think the last thing to reflect on is that Nelson City Council obviously going through, and both Hawke's Bay, Gisborne, Auckland to a degree, Nelson and Marlborough, are all facing the challenge we have not had to face in this particular long-term plan, is how to respond to a significant adverse weather event. And you can see what's being proposed in Nelson, how significant it is as an overall component of their long-term plan. And I guess that forming part of the conversation, again, while we have chosen not to and I think correctly, but kind of run a pre-funding kind of arrangement or setting up, backstop funds. That clearly is something that the community may wish to comment on when they see what happens post-event when you have to recover that money in the aftermath of a significant adverse event. So, look, again, I'm supportive of the resolution. It will be very interesting to see the feedback that we receive, both positive and negative. And I also support the fact that, unlike a lot of councils who are going out with rate increases not dissimilar to what we're suggesting, and debt figures not dissimilar in terms of percentages, many of them are at the same time having to wind back services. And to be in the position where we're at least proposing to invest in social around swimming pools and community centres and community hubs and places like Tapawera and Motueka and Wakefield Brightwater, I think is a constructive and positive place to start a conversation with the community. Where it ends up, I guess we'll just wait and see. Right. Are there any further comments or feedback on anything? If not, the resolution's been moved and seconded. Does the mover wish to have a right of reply?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly did have a question around the amount allocated for speed management, but I think, in listening to you, Mr. Mayor, we should just wait, because it's an evolving scene, and we can adjust that later on. So, for the purposes of giving this guidance to staff, I think we should continue with it. So I guess I'd just like to finish it off by saying, I can't actually recall any specific service that we have indicated that we don't want to provide to our community in the conversations that we've had. So, to me, this fairly reflects our direction, and it's good to see that it's so well supported. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So there's been a request for a division to be called. So I will come across to Robin to go through the list.
Mayor Bryant. For. Councillor Butler.
For.
Councillor Dakey.
For.
Councillor Dalla.
For.
Councillor Ellis.
For.
Councillor Greening.
Against.
Councillor Hill. Aye. Mayor King. Councillor Kinnenmonth.
For.
Councillor McKenzie.
For.
Councillor Mayling.
For.
Councillor Maru.
For.
Councillor Walker.
For.
Aye.
So the resolution is carried.
It is.
Right. Thank you. So is Mike. Thank you, gentlemen. So it happens to be gentlemen all at the front. This is kind of interesting given the mix of people who have appeared in front of us over the course of the development of the LTP, but thank you. And again, it's been reiterated a number of times, but I guess I'll just reinforce our thanks to all the work that's been undertaken by all the departments in terms of going through the kind of must, could, should process, and then particularly the finance for pulling that all together. And I think for and being considerably more, whatever the word is, the process of bringing us information, agility, that's in terms of our kind of areas of direction and feedback, and then being able to turn that around really quickly and provide us with updated information. And also where people have requested specific information or the way that you've responded and provided that. So to the finance team who sit behind a lot of this, thanks very much for all your hard work to get us to this point. Right, thank you. Oh, do we not? Oh, right. So we can't just carry on and get ahead of tomorrow. We have to just call time and do community singing and come back in the morning.
No singing.
Okay. So unfortunately, we can't proceed with the rest of the agenda because the way this has been structured means that, that's what we did think we were all going to be all afternoon. Hence, I brought it forward an extra half day. But unfortunately, you all have to return tomorrow for part 2 of the council meeting. Thank you, Councillor Hill. Would you like to make a comment?
Well, I'm just,
And by all means, Zoom in tomorrow. Don't feel you need to use
I'm here for my
Oh, that's even
overnight.
better. So good, you've got all afternoon to enjoy Richmond, which, as we discussed earlier,
Sorry,
as you discussed earlier, is the
can I just say, I'm just wanting to understand the process of that. So what, could you just clarify the how come? Please?
so the way we noted it in the agenda is adjourn meeting post the first item. So I mean, I am happy to. I mean, I would obviously be happy because I'm, these sort of things drive me insane. But in terms of technicalities, I mean, I'm happy to take advice.
Yeah, good luck.
No, it says adjourn meeting until 9:30 on Thursday, the 14th of December. So
I think it's your quarter. We would have cracked some that we said actually, because Nathan's coming for you into your.
Yeah. When there's all the referral reports, surely. Mike sure.
Nathan's coming as well. Yeah, but
Golden Bay financial contributions. Yeah, that's what the technical situation is. That is what the public notice has said. Oh, I know. Right. Well, rather reluctantly. Councillor Greening.
Thank you. Didn't think you spotted my hand there. I can put it down now. We have an in-committee and confidential item. Can that not be addressed?
Yes, good point. Councillor, could we do that particular item? Excellent. Right. So who is so Mike? Are you happy to? I'm happy to give you 5 minutes if you wish to. Yes, I will come to that. So kind of a resolution that we go into committee. The reasoning is laid out in the agenda. I received advice about this after the last meeting, and the advice I received was the requirement is to have it in the agenda. It's not a requirement to read it out per se. The requirement is met by having it listed, stated in the agenda. Moved Councillor Mailing, seconded Councillor Hill. All those in favour, please say aye.